Okay, well, that's very interesting, Dave. Now, it is very clear that you have a very vivid and creative imagination, and this has led to stories that involve Beatrice Beecham doing all kinds of wonderful things against mysterious beasties and bad guys, as well as hordes and hordes of zombies. But you also instill certain scientific um, frameworks in your work. So skepticism, critical thinking, elements of humanism, like you say, very strong uh, feminist characters as well. But when I read Frostbite, it kind of felt like Frostbite is slightly different. Would you agree with that? And if so, why? Why the choice?
Um, More often than not, I tend to. Um, I mean, I'll be absolutely brutally honest. I When I'm writing, I just go with the way the story takes me. Um, I guess it's to turn around and say that when I'm writing any piece, probably with the exception of Finding Jericho, that I write any piece with a degree of thought around what the piece is saying in terms of whether it's a humanist approach, whether it's socio-political. If I was to say that I do that, then I think I would be lying, if I'm honest. I think what I tend to do is somehow when I'm writing, because you get into that creative flow, it's almost by osmosis. You start to allow these things to work through into the story, be it through what a character says or their perspective on a certain I guess event in their life, that kind of thing. But with Frostbite, the reality was that it is purely yarn. It is a pulp fiction high adventure yarn. That's the way I wanted to approach. I made a conscious effort to keep the storyline very linear, uh, pretty much like you would get in, I guess, the traditional kind of pulp fiction yarns of the 50s and 60s, really, like the Edgar Rice Burroughs types of the Tars and stuff, and um, things like you know, various kind of writers who were very much into high adventure, that kind of stuff. So, that's my take on that. What I wanted to do was just tell a really good yarn, and so really, I mean, there's very loose political statements on some elements around the diamond trade, for example, but they're very loose. It's not like I'm trying to make any kind of political statement on that particular industry or whatever. But yeah, that's the reason why Frostbite reads the way it does. Because it's high adventure, and that was only ever it's going to be its brief, really, because that was, I guess, the assurance I gave to Severed Press, really, around wanting to write that pulp fiction linear story, just to entertain people, pure entertainment. That's what that I'm hoping people will see from that read. So
Excellent. Now, talking about Frostbite again, um, can you tell our viewers a little bit about the book? What is it about? What attracted you to the storyline? Obviously, without giving too much away. So it's a spoiler-free edition, if you mind. And then also, what is the current state of play on the book? When will it be released? When can we actually get our hands and our eyeballs on them?
Well, okay. In terms of, and this is the writer's worst nightmare. You know that, don't you? Trying to distill the essence of a story into a few sentences. It's a nightmare. I'd rather write 350 pages. Um, but but yeah, what is the book about? It is about a group of ex-mercenaries. They aren't mercenaries. They're an elite, or they used to be an elite black ops team, that also do some covert private work, and they've gone dormant now. They've for various reasons, the characters are no longer doing that. They made a conscious decision that they weren't going to do that anymore, and they are approached by a professor of anthropology and his daughter to help them rescue his son, the professor's son, who's gone on an expedition to the Himalayas, and they've lost all contact with him. So they use this this team of people to help them get onto a specific mountain in the Himalayas where it is forbidden. It's not allowed under kind of Nepalese law. The mountain range is kind of a no-go area based on the fact of their religious beliefs, and that the god Vishnu is sort of there's like sort of sacred grounds on you know, or a sacred I guess belief attached to that particular mountain. So it has to be covert in order to rescue his son. But he makes no bones about it to the team. The professor makes no bones about the fact that the has gone in search of the Yeti. So the team basically think that they're on a bit of a jolly. Really, they think, oh, we're going to go and rescue this hapless anthropologist that's gone roaming around looking for some mythical ape man. We're going to get 60 grand each to go and do it. So they just think they're on a bit of a jolly, really, and go along to it. To find when they get onto the mountain that things certainly are not as they seem. So lots of twists and turns in terms of the storyline, and about halfway through, people will certainly feel like what happened there, because the book takes quite a turn about halfway through. So it's adventure yarn. Where is it at the moment? The final draft, from my perspective, has gone to Severed Press, but as any author will tell you, what you consider to be a final draft isn't. By the time it goes to the publisher, it's come back and there's corrections needed and what have you, and the editor will have their add their 2 penneth for it. So there's no release date as of yet, but I would strongly suspect, knowing Severed Press the way I do, you're looking probably, I would suspect it'd probably be about summer, if not early September time. So yeah. So, but you know, these things are prone to change. But what I will do, I'll certainly let people know when as soon as I know, I'll let people know when it's due out through my social media and websites and what have you. So.
Thanks for that. Obviously, you are quite active on social media, and that is you know, kind of where I get most of my information about your works as well. So we're really looking forward to actually reading the book as well. In a previous interview, you pointed out that you are a massive fan of James Herbert and John Steinbeck. Now,
yes,
would it be accurate to say that your Necropolis Rising and Frostbite is your James Herbert period, and perhaps Finding Jericho was your Steinbeck period? And then second to that, can we expect more Steinbeck?
That's a really interesting question. I mean, I would, to be honest, I mean, I draw my inspirations from a wide variety of sources. I think in terms of theme and concept, then yeah, I would suggest that Finding Jericho does have that. It's heavily socio-political. It's heavily humanist, very much in terms of Steinbeck's approach to things. To think that it bears any semblance to Steinbeck in terms of its the way it's structured and whatever, I would never lay claim to that, because Steinbeck is, in my eyes, one of the greatest writer, if not the greatest writer that has ever lived. So I would never suggest for 1 minute that would ever get anywhere near Steinbeck, but he has heavily influenced the way I work. In terms of James Herbert and Guy N. Smith, for that matter, certainly in terms of themes and the way that I've structured the Necropolis Rising books, especially the first two Necropolis Rising books, are heavily influenced by James Herbert in terms of their structure. And that is in the premise, the whole traditional early 1980s pulp approach to horror fiction, and started by Herbert in terms of creating a character in a chapter and then killing him off by the end of the chapter. There's a total homage to Herbert within Necropolis Rising, because there are in effect three chapters that are literally could be taken out of the book, and no one would realise that they were ever there, and they would sit comfortably as three separate short stories. So that's very much James Herbert sort of driven, and the pace of Necropolis Rising is very much Guy N. Smith too. So those two writers heavily influence the pulp elements of my writing. Is there going to be some more Steinbeck in terms of those kind of I guess those kind of socio-political kind of themes? Yes, there will be. I'm already thinking about a book that, well, I'm not just thinking about it. It's been on my mind for several years now. I mean, I've probably thought about it when I'd finished writing Finding Jericho, but there is a book called Taboo that I want to write, and I've got the premise of it, I've got the storyline for it. I just need to sit down and write it. But because it's mental health themed and it tackles some very, very sensitive issues, it's a book that I can't rush into. I've got to, in order to give it justice, to give the work justice, and to give through very sensitive issues, it's something that requires a great deal of thought. So it's something that I'm likely to write in years' time rather than in the immediate in the immediate time, really. So yeah. So something, Lou. I think I was just thinking now that in all the interviews that I've given, this is probably the most serious I've ever been, and I don't.
I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing.
I'm normally quite glib. I don't know. No, but I think this is good. I think some of the viewers who watch my other stuff may well think, "Oh God, he can be serious. He can be serious about what he's doing. And, so yeah. So it's great. It's great. I'm loving it."
Well, that's great. Now let's get back more to your nitty gritty. That there's the stuff, the bread and butter of your writing work, your writing career. I had a look on your website, and I was struck by the fact that you have 2 works that were commissioned, as well as options out on screenplays that you have written. Can you just, in a nutshell, kind of explain how that works and how that comes to be?
Well, the commission stuff is pretty much it's quite simple, really. People pay me to write them. So I was approached to write a couple of books for with Silent Studios at the time. It was Silent Press or something now. I don't know. I don't really know. It's a while since I wrote those, and they were based on someone else's very loose storylines, and they sent them to me. And the deal was, could I write these 2 books, and I did that. The bulk of the funding for the first book went towards Ascension. That went directly towards Ascension. And then the second book was written, I think, about a year or so after that. So yeah, they were just commissioned works. They were just commissioned works I was approached to do. the screenplays as such, they're screenplays that I've written based on the one's based on Necropolis Rising, the other's based on Finding Jericho, and they are just literally there for people to, if they choose to do that. There were films that we thought that VLM in its aspirational days would have taken on, but both of them required a level of budget and commitment that neither myself or James would have to bring them to give them the justice that they certainly. Finding Jericho requires a level of investment to give it the justice it truly deserves in terms of its subject matter. So yeah, so that's how that works.
Well, that's a shame. Hopefully, at some point in the near future, someone can make it happen. We'd love to see that.
We try and win the lottery.
Yeah, join the club. Join the club.
Yeah, I don't play it though, so I've got no chance.
I'd like to end off with two final questions. First of all, are there any other creatures or storylines or events that you would like to write about or explore? And just as an example, so for example, would you like to do a Dracula vampire story, or would you like to do a superhero Batman novel or something similar?
I'd really like to do a werewolf story. If I was going to do one, I think it would be a werewolf one. But it's like anything really. It's like what you need a decent hook. You need something that's original. And with Necropolis Rising, I waited years before I wrote a zombie novel, even though I really wanted to write one. But I just didn't have the in. I didn't have the hook. And then when I came up with the hook, it was immediate, and I thought, yeah, that's it. That's absolutely the way forward. And Necropolis Rising was written in 2010, so that's 7 years ago now. And I really like it when it does make me laugh. It does make me smile, I guess, when people pick up Necropolis Rising now, and then they say, "Oh God, this isn't very original." It's like, well, you picked it up 7 years after the event. You kind of 7 years too late,
Yeah.
But in its day, it was original. It was original in terms of the themes and what have you. But around Tom Everett, for example, and his community, and his, I guess, his link with the zombies has certainly progressed to an area now, certainly in Dead Empire, where it's gone back to being original again. So I guess it's just a case of people sticking with the story. But I would really would like to write a werewolf one. That's where I would like to try and turn my creative juices at some point in the near future. But I just haven't got that. I haven't got the hook yet. The vampires, as much as I like watching a vampire film, I mean, I love Dracula as a book. I love Salem's Lot as a book, but vampires don't tend to inspire me as much as I guess as other genre characters, unless it's something like I think that's a great vampire film, but it's it doesn't really appeal to me as a section of horror, as much. So.
And the obvious joke, obviously, is that the vampire storyline does have legs.
Yes, it does. Yeah, it does. But the thing is, it's like, I mean, I think I'd like to say that I really am a big fan of Twilight. And
are you pulling my leg?
I am very much pulling your leg.
Excellent. Dave, one last question, and before I ask the question, I would just really like to thank you for your time. I know this has been quite a strenuous endeavor, and you've got you've got your day job, and you've got a family, and you're a gent for taking this time to not only speak with me, but also all of your fans that are out there. And that leads me to my final question. My final question is, apart from the obvious things like, buying your book and following you online, what can fans do to really support you in your career, and really make sure that you are able to do this and much more in future, not only for yourself, but also for us as fans?
Well, I mean, first of all, I've got to say that to the likes of you, the likes of all the people that invest time and money in what I do, have my absolute unreserved thanks, and it is an absolute joy to know that people are enjoying what I do. To be honest with you, it's an absolute joy to know that people don't like what I do. Do you know what I mean? It's like, as long as people are there reading it. Otherwise, I'm, myself and other writers, we like kind of sat there, we're tapping away into this laptop or writing stuff down in our notebooks and all the rest of it, and that's where it will stay forever unless people read it. So unreserved thank you. People can do feedback. Give me feedback. I love to hear feedback. I love people to get in touch with me via my either my Facebook page or via my websites. Posting reviews is always helpful. Reviews on Amazon, for example, are great because they do raise the profile of the book. So if you've liked what I've done, or if you haven't liked what I've done, again, post a review. If you feel passionate that what I've written sucks, then write a review about it. This is the kind of things to get people talking, to get that dialogue going. But yeah, follow what I do. Follow me on Twitter. Follow me on Facebook. Contact me through my website. And I'll always respond. I'll always talk to people, you get people. I get emails from people enjoyed my work, and that really makes my day. That kind of says to me that I'm not doing this. I'm not writing in a vacuum. That I am connecting with people. So yeah, and support the kind of things that people like yourself do as well. Because people like yourself, people like Jackie Chin on Zombie Palooza, people like Armand Rossamilia on Armcast podcast, you guys are amazing. You perpetuate the indie scene. You guys do that. So by people who enjoy my work, seeing me here, support guys like you. It's a reciprocal thing, and I think there's not enough people helping each other out in this world as it is. So help each other out. Do enough, Louis.
Excellent, Dave. Thank you very much, like I said, for your time, and best of luck, not only for Frostbite, but for any other project in the pipeline. And a kind of side note, I hope there's lots of films from VLM coming out as well. So fingers crossed for all of that. We'll speak again soon, and thank you so much for your time. Good night.
Yeah, take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.